Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video we can discuss about short story. What is a short story? A short story is a brief work of prose fiction that usually focuses on a single essential event or a person with very few characters. Few characters will be there. It's a brief work of prose fiction. Okay, with very few characters. James Joyce, the famous writer, has said that a short story focuses on a simple incident or a moment of sudden insight, which he terms an epiphany. So, according to James Joyce, a short story, it focuses on a simple incident or a moment of sudden insight. The origin of this form can be traced back to Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, a collection of short stories composed in verse. Boccaccio's Decameron and Cervantes' Exemplary Tales are examples of the early forms of the modern short story. The length of the short story differs from writer to writer. The author may begin the short story close to the climax. So it differs from writer to writer. The length of the short story differs from writer to writer. It's upon the writer's choice actually. Often this short stories resemble a fable or parable, as it may present a surprise or a puzzle. In Britain, the short story developed in the second half of the 18th century, partly as a result of the popularity of the Oriental tale and the Gothic novel. In its current form, it became fashionable in the 19th and 20th centuries when published in the General Magazine and Little Magazine. So, some of the major pioneers of this form includes Sir Walter Scott, who wrote excellent short stories, and then the American writers Washington Irving and Nathaniel Hawthorne. All these are some of the major pioneers of short stories. Washington Irving is remembered for his adaptations of German folk tales such as Rip Van Winkle and also The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Then Nathaniel Hawthorne's stories include Twice Told Tales and also The Snow Image. All these are their major works. Then Edgar Allan Poe. He was for long inaccurately regarded as the originator of the short story genre. Edgar Allan Poe was affected by the German Romantics and also the Gothic stories, and he was very much influenced by writers like Irving and Hawthorne. He brought out remarkable short stories that include The Fall of the House of Usher and The Murders of the Rue Morgue. All these are his major short stories. So he was very much influenced by writers like Irving and Hawthorne and also affected by the German Romantics. According to Edgar Allan Poe, a short story is a prose narrative that requires about half an hour to a maximum of 2 hours in its perusal. It is a story that concentrates on something unique to produce a single effect, in which the main objective is to achieve the totality of that single effect. The realistic short story was developed in Russia with Alexander Pushkin's The Tales of Belkin. Then other renowned Russian short story writers include Gogol with his famous short story The Overcoat, then Turgenev with his work First Love, and also Leo Tolstoy. He wrote some of the greatest Russian short stories like Happy Ever After and also The Death of Ivan Ilyich. Then Anton Chekhov also exerted a profound influence with his short stories like Ward Number 6 and The Lady with the Little Dog. Then when we look at French short story writers, the outstanding French short story writer in the 19th century is Guy de Maupassant, whose main short story collections include Miss Harriet, Vete. All these are his major works. Then other important French short story writers include Balzac and Flaubert. Then the main short story writers in America during the second half of the 19th century were Herman Melville, Mark Twain, Stephen Crane, Ernest Hemingway, and also O. Henry. O. Henry was a prolific writer and master of the surprise ending. Then Henry James, he wrote different types including ghost stories and made a lasting contribution to this genre. Then other English short story writers include Thomas Hardy. He was one of the famous short story writers. And also Arthur Conan Doyle, who established the detective short story in the 1890s with his world-renowned work, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so Thomas Hardy and Arthur Conan Doyle. Then H.G. Wells, he wrote science fiction short stories like The Time Machine, The Invisible Man, etc. Then came Catherine Mansfield. Catherine Mansfield's short stories were the first in English to show Anton Chekhov's influence. And she was one of the most important figures in the evolution of the short story genre. Then in 1914, James Joyce published Dubliners, which was a landmark in this genre. Somerset Maugham followed the tradition of Maupassant and became a highly established craftsman with collections like Orientations and Ascendant Stories. Then D.H. Lawrence, another British author, who has published a large volume of short stories including The White Stocking and England, My England. So all these are the major writers: Thomas Hardy, Arthur Conan Doyle, H.G. Wells, Catherine Mansfield, James Joyce, D.H. Lawrence, etc. So it's very important that even short story writers emphasize that short fiction must be microcosmic. That is, it should showcase the whole world in a small canvas. Harmony is crucial in its structure, and individual events, incidents, and characters must come together as a single unit. Repetition should be avoided, and compression and concentration are advocated. So all these are major points. Even the short story writers are emphasizing that there must be harmony. Okay, it must come together as a single unit. Then repetition should be avoided, and compression and concentration are advocated. Catchy openings and powerful endings, just as in Joyce's Dubliners. All these are factors that add to the charm of the short story.